We believe that videos, images, words, and sounds have the absolute power to inform, inspire, and entertain. We are united under the virtues of safety and knowledge. We are a training community of learners and teachers who encourage and energize each other to achieve greatness. We are pilots, videographers, photographers, freelancers, business owners, enthusiasts, experts, and apprentices. We are creators. We are the Drone U.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another awesome episode of Ask Drone U. My name is Paul, and I am missing the water, Rob.
Yes, I understand. We're going to hear a little bit more about that, and I'm Rob. And guys, this is episode number 279. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your day with us.
Yes, definitely thank you. And I wanted to address some of the comments that we have been getting on the Chroma review video or podcast, whatever you want to call it. It's so weird for me now because podcasting always seems like an audio thing, you know? I listen to podcasts in the car. I got through about 20 podcasts this weekend, which is why I love driving.
On the road again?
On the road again.
Well, and let me say one thing about the Chroma thing, because I wouldn't even call it a review. I mean, somebody called and asked an opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what was given. It wasn't a review. We've not flown the thing. But nonetheless, go ahead and say what you're going to say.
You know what? Thank you for saying that because it's something that needs to be said almost every time. If someone was arguing, hey, well, I can use the Chroma for commercial purposes. I'm not saying you can't use it for commercial purposes. I just want to make that really, really clear. But, if you are going to be flying regularly and commercially, I don't think the Chroma is the answer for you.
Well, here's the thing. I can take an old Datsun out to the track, too. Right? It doesn't mean I'm going to win.
Little extreme on the analogy there, Rob, but I agree you would not win.
Go big or go home.
I say that because if you are using the Chroma, you don't have batteries that are quote-unquote smart batteries, which is the smart circuitry that's in the battery. Why is that a problem? Because users tend to charge when the battery is too hot, and they tend to discharge the battery too much, which causes puffing. Why is that important? Well, if you're flying commercially a lot, you're going to be ending up using more and more batteries. The other thing is, with that prop motor combo and the battery combo, being what it is, if you ever took a job in the mountains or if you ever took a job over 4,000 feet, you're not going to get 18 minutes of flight time. You're going to get like 6 or 7 minutes of flight time. So That's going to increase your battery usage even more. And so we're not saying, hey, you can't use it for commercial purposes. We're saying, hey, if you're business savvy, you don't want to use this for commercial purposes because you're going to have more costs in your drone or in that particular equipment than other drones. So what we're trying to say as Drone U, because we do teach people about turning their passion into profit, is this is not the best way to go. And I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, nope, that makes a lot of sense. But like you said, if someone already has one or they're choosing to buy one, it can be done.
Definitely.
Just kind of know what you're getting into. That's what we want people to know is what you're getting into.
Absolutely. And guys, we're also not trying to bash on the Chroma. We're just trying to be real. You know what I mean? It's like, you could hate your grandfather for telling you certain life lessons, but when you turn 30, you realize he was right. So,
that's right.
Anyway.
So somewhere down the line, they're all going to say, Paul was right.
Well, I'm not your grandpa, but yes. So I just want to take a second to say thank you again to everyone on Instagram. I've been posting some awesome photos, but one thing I want to say is that if you comment on one of your photos that you want us to repost, technically, according to the rules, that does not give us permission to repost it. You've got to tag us in the photo. So just for you guys, I've been getting a lot of photos, actually over 500 photos, where people are writing our name in the comments. You've actually got to tag us.
Okay, and tell people how specifically does one tag?
So if you've already posted the photo, you go back to edit the photo, and then bottom left, there's like a little tag like you would put on a present, and you click the tag, and then click somewhere on the image and then type in @thedroneu and then done editing, and it will put it in there.
So for the longest time, I literally thought all I had to do was do the little @ symbol with the name.
Nope.
And obviously that's not right.
Nope, that's not right. But it was a good effort.
Well, okay, thanks. I'll take it.
But guys, if you want your photos reposted, be sure to tag us on Instagram at @TheDroneU. I'm really excited about how fast that is growing too, as well as our Twitter page. And we're on Facebook, facebook.com/DroneU. And we're on YouTube, where you're probably listening to this right now. Just for you podcast listeners, we do go live now every day with the show. So if you want to see our pretty faces, then you can come check us out on, as Rob would say, the YouTube.
That's right. I get my news from the Google and my videos from the YouTube.
Well, hey, you gotta
Isn't that
go.
what everybody does?
You gotta go somewhere, Rob.
That's
So,
right.
guys, also, if you have a question, be sure to go to askdroneu.com and submit that question. I will not respond to questions on Facebook messages. Do you know how many Facebook messages I got this weekend?
Yeah, and by the way, guys, that's just a matter of time. There's just not enough time to do that, and so
We
I
have
don't know,
a-
maybe we can do a lottery where like one a day gets chosen.
No, because I'm not sifting
like,
through
denied.
57 messages every weekend. That's not happening.
Well, you don't have to sift, but anyways, we'll talk about that later.
Well, here's, we have this system where if people go and ask a question, it goes into our system. If
That's
you
true.
just message me or email me, it's kind of difficult.
I just like to please everybody, Paul, and I like to get everybody's questions answered quickly.
Well, I learned when I owned my former company that pleasing everyone is not the right answer.
It's not. You're absolutely right.
Anyway,
Fine, slap my hand.
no.
Okay.
But I will say, do I want to provide value? Yes. Do I want to entertain at the same time? Yes, I do, but value takes the precedent. Which brings us to today's question. We've talked a lot about batteries, and we're talking more and more about battery maintenance. This is one of those really important aspects of battery maintenance. Some people call it calibrating. Some people call it deep cycling. Whatever you want to call it. You got to take care of your batteries. So let's work into today's question.
Hi guys, this is Steve from the Adelaide Hills in South Australia. Hey, awesome podcast. Keep up the great work. Trust you enjoy my Aussie accent. My question today concerns batteries, specifically DJI smart batteries for the Inspire 1 and Phantom 3. There are a lot of different ideas around on how low to run the batteries to calibrate them each and every 20 flights. I'm keen to know how often and how you run down your batteries to calibrate them each time. If you have any other ideas or tricks about batteries, I'd love to hear them as well. And if you have any spare Polar Pro filters for an Inspire 1, I could put them to great use. Keep up the great work, guys. Really appreciate what you do.
All the way from the warmth of Australia.
Yeah, he has a really good accent.
Well, I wonder why.
Oh. Is that considered cheating or just?
No. I think that's the ultimate accent,
Yeah, it
frankly.
is. Sounds awesome.
And it is summertime right now in Australia, so I
Not
am.
right now here.
No, not right now. I woke up to a whiteout actually.
Seriously.
So
Snowing in Albuquerque.
driving down, I couldn't even see the next stoplight, which normally they're every half mile, so you can see them pretty regularly. Which brings up an aviation question:
Uh-oh.
what's the minimum safe visibility to fly a light sport aircraft? This is for all of you getting your powered parachute licenses. You're getting your 333. You should know the answer to this question.
I am not getting my...
3 statute miles.
Not in a million years would I have gotten that.
Just trying to prepare people for the written test. It's that so many people.
Say
are
that again.
taking.
3.
So minimum safe visibility
Yeah.
is 3 statute miles.
What's a statute mile?
It's like a regular mile. It's not a nautical mile.
Okay.
So 5,080 feet or whatever it is.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so let's get into calibrating batteries. Why do we calibrate batteries? Well, frankly, all LiPos' internal resistance increases with age. It's physics, right?
Right.
So it's also a characteristic of the battery chemistry, and you really can't get away from it. And now, as this internal resistance increases, the packs will not give up their charge so readily. Under load, and the overall capacity of the battery will diminish. Now, this is a really important point because I've seen other tips. I think one of them was the Drone Owners Network. There was another tip somewhere else. But where they're missing very specific nuances of information, where if you were to follow the rules that are in the Drone Owners Network, you would actually decrease the overall capacity of your battery over its lifespan. So I really want to go over the nuances and how you should calibrate your battery, deep cycle, whatever you want to call it, because it's really important that you do it very correctly. Because if you don't, it's going to affect the flight time on that particular battery over time. It'll become less and less and less and less and less. So,
Can I ask you really quick before you get into that? Technically speaking, what is calibrating?
so
Why is it necessary?
the calibration procedure, what it's really doing is it's like the fuel gauge, right? Because you have a smart circuit in your batteries. And what we're doing is we're kind of telling the battery what 0 is and what 100% of that battery really should be. So what we're doing is we're telling the battery what the endpoints are of that battery. So when you look at your battery percentage, it's more reminiscent of actually your true battery capacity that's left.
So that the gauge that you're looking at is an accurate representation of how your battery is behaving.
Correct. So normally if you don't calibrate, those endpoints change over time. So it's kind of like the health status of the pack, which starts from a new 100% and then goes down over time, decreasing the milliamp hour capacity. So what we're trying to do is say, okay, these are your true endpoints, and they start shrinking, and we want to say, this is your real endpoint at the bottom, and this is your real endpoint at the top. Now, how you do this is really, really, really important. I printed out a couple different, or actually, I shouldn't say I printed out because that would be an on-air lie. John printed out. Thank you, John, our producer. He's behind the camera. You can't see him, but he actually has pink hair. He printed out.
It's cool, too.
He printed out these papers. And the first things first, how do you calibrate your battery? Well, one system that I found said, fully charge your battery, fly it around, lower your landing gear, hover over the ground, and wait until you get to 3.3 volts per cell. And then he said land and go fill the battery back up. If that's what you know to do, understand that you're going to limit the amount of battery that you're going to have available to you the further and further along the line you do that.
So that's actually an unhealthy way, so to speak.
Well, it's not unhealthy. It definitely helps the battery, but it doesn't totally help. Here's why. What I would do is, first things first, when you're going to calibrate a battery, which I believe you should do about every 20 flights.
Okay.
First things first, charge up the battery to 100%. Go to a field, fly around, have fun, do your thing, whatever. Lower the landing gear. I should take a step back. Before you go fly, set your battery voltage warnings to 10% and 15%. I'm normally at 30% and 25%. Because I've found that even though, yes, I don't ever fly below 30%, I've also never had a battery issue. I've never really had a problem.
It's being conservative, basically.
It's being conservative, and it helps. Anyway, that being said, set your battery warnings 10, 15%, fly around, bring your landing gear down. Again, hover over the grass, right? Like, say, a foot over the grass. When you get to about 3.3 volts, land the drone.
Now, just to clarify really, really quickly, you said bring your landing gear down, but in fact, we're talking about the Phantom 3 as well, right? Either or.
Correct.
The Inspire or the Phantom.
Yes.
Okay.
And I normally use the Inspire 1 as my baseline because it's more complicated. So, anyway, that being said, once you land, though, even though you are at 3.3 volts loaded, now the battery is unloaded, so you'll notice your voltage is actually a little bit higher. This is where a majority of people make the mistake. In fact, it's where I don't want to use his name because I don't want people giving me hateful reviews. So I figure, you know what, I'm not going to be so calling out anymore.
We're not perfect.
No one's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
Anyway, that being said, if that's where you stop with this procedure, don't stop. So once you get to 3.3 volts, you've landed. Now, here's the trick. I actually learned this from Andrew Baker, who's an avionics engineer at Honeywell. Take the props off, leave the drone on. Leave the drone on and just leave it there until it turns itself off.
Which means,
so when you're at 3.3 volts, you're going to see that your drone is at 5 or 10%. Remember, we're setting the endpoints, so we want 0%. This is the safest point in which the battery can go before you damage it. So leave the drone on. It will turn itself off when the battery is fully depleted.
Right.
Once you do that, then go charge the battery on your normal charger. But one thing I've noticed is that I actually had a charger go bad on me.
DJI charger.
Yeah, it was the smaller charger. It wasn't the rapid charger. So I think it was the, don't quote me here. There's like a 100-watt charger and like a 160-watt charger. I forget where the breakdown is. but I have the faster charger, and
Right.
that one works really well. But my standard DJI charger, I'm getting in a warning, which is when it's the third light and it blinks twice, which means that you've got a charger that's overcharging the batteries. So
okay.
again, it's another reason to calibrate correctly and use the right charger. So
Right. So one of the things also that's come up is that the batteries can really get hot when going through this process.
mm-hmm.
What do we need to be aware of there? Do we need to be concerned? And what about one of the things that I came across, Paul, is that one needs to be careful once it gets to zero and it shuts off. Don't charge it right away. Make sure that battery cools down before it's recharged.
That's really important, yes. So you want to make sure that it gets back down to about, room temperature, say 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
I don't know what that would be in Celsius, so I'm sorry, Mr. Australia, Steve from Australia.
But Google will take care of that.
The Google will take care of that for him. That being said, it is really important to wait till they're cool, but do understand that, DJI batteries will not let you charge them if they're overheated. It just won't happen. In fact, I was teaching someone, and I probably should have charged him, but it was just a friend. I was like, don't do this, because I didn't want his boat to burn down. He was trying to charge a battery that was too hot, and it was giving him the first bar light.
Mm-hmm.
When that first bar flashes, it means your battery's too hot, and you shouldn't be trying to charge it.
Okay.
So it's, it won't let it happen.
Important to understand your indicators.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, what else? Let's see. What is there any difference in this process? I'm guessing not, but whether you're using a TB47 or a 48?
No, not to my knowledge.
Just the 48 might take a little bit longer?
48 will probably take a little bit longer. Now, what I do is, that guy was talking about overheating and overcharge warning. What I do is I fly around my house to do this, or in this instance, since the office park is right behind the office.
Right.
I just fly over the park, fly around the park, bring the drone back here, leave it turned on, props off, and then just put it in the kitchen here and let it turn itself off because, it's better, again, in a cooler environment. So if you let it turn itself off inside, it'll help. But do not turn it off and then turn it back on. That won't help this process.
So if you do that, you're essentially resetting and you have to start over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right, cool.
Anyway, yeah, if you want your batteries to last a long time, this is really crucial. Now, here's something I learned. The CAA, which is the governing body for, I think it's the UK, for aviation, they actually make it mandatory that you're supposed to log how many times you fly a specific battery, which is interesting because you don't have to do that here. So, which I like that because it's going to make people safer. LiPo batteries in themselves are troublesome. We're seeing that in the hoverboards. Society overreacts because for some reason, we have difficulty with actually being responsible with things. And I'm noticing that. So, guys, be responsible. Let's be leaders. One thing I will say, I read an article yesterday. We posted it on the Drone U Facebook page about drone racing becoming bigger than the Super Bowl. I don't know if you read that.
I did not read that.
Well, here's the thing, right? It all comes down to exposure because brands are looking for views.
Right.
Super Bowl had, 50 million people watching it live, something like that?
A lot.
The first two videos that were put out by Drone Racing League had 30 million views each. So now brands are like, we want that attention.
No kidding.
Yeah, so it is becoming
Dang.
a big deal. And the thing is, my point in saying all of this is that in the article they said brands have to be careful, though, especially with drone racing, because the audience is very tech savvy.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I do think about that in terms of people and all the people that are buying drones and DJI drones and so forth, or Chroma, whatever. A lot of them, frankly, are probably like me, and they just want it to work, and they're not going to take the time to understand all of this kind of stuff, and people need to.
That's exactly right. I actually got that example this weekend from someone, so it's so true. So
Yeah,
true.
so take the time, if for no other reason than safety.
Absolutely. So critical, so important. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for us. So make sure if you have a question, go to Ask a Drone U and upload that question. And also, we're going to go over how you can keep your batteries warm with a specific device on tomorrow's podcast.
Nice.
This is something that this really goes deep down into the nerd world, and I'm a lot of people called me nerdy when I was in high school and in middle school, which I thought was interesting.
I think nerds are cool.
I think
least
nerds have
that's
the. Anyone who says you're a nerd in high school, well, guess what? You're gonna have a lot more money than the person who called you a nerd.
Exactly.
20 years down the line.
Just embrace your nerd.
Embrace the inner nerd.
Embrace the nerd. That's right. Exactly. So I tell my kids, anyways.
I mean, I wonder how Gary Vee was looked at in high school or middle school. I think that would be funny. He's also an investor in the Drone Racing League.
Is he really?
If that doesn't tell you something about drone racing, man, I really wish.
It's exploding. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, guys, thank you again for listening. Those reviews on iTunes actually really help us out. So if you appreciate any of this information, please take a second, go to iTunes, give us a review. We really appreciate all those reviews. I mean, it really makes a difference for us, and we really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, and we want to know what you think. I mean, honestly, we want to know because we do make changes and improvements all the time, and we listen to what you guys have to say. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for us today. My name is Paul.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Drone U.
We believe that videos, images, words, and sounds have the absolute power to inform, inspire, and entertain. We are united under the virtues of safety and knowledge. We are a training community of learners and teachers who encourage and energize each other to achieve greatness. We are pilots, videographers, photographers, freelancers, business owners, enthusiasts, experts, and apprentices. We are creators. We are the Drone U.